Hello everyone! It's been so long since I've done a live. I decided to do a live today instead of a pre-recorded video for my YouTube channel. And there were a couple reasons why. It was very much inspired. I felt like this was a way for me to share in a broader and bigger way. And also because I wanted to share about some really cool upcoming things that I have that you all may be interested in. So sometimes I can see who's here, sometimes I can see the comments, sometimes I cannot. I really hope this is one of the days where I can see. So hello and welcome if you're here. What I'm going to be doing today is sharing a video that I typically share, a series that I have on my YouTube channel called Wise Woman Television, and I'm sure you can find those links and posts elsewhere, and I can post that later in the comments. But I usually do this pre-recorded, and I felt like it was an opportunity to do this live today and share this message in a bigger way, and then I can just put it on my YouTube channel later. So hello to the people who have shared a hello. I'm going to be going over some messages for this week. So this is our weekly wisdom talk. Like I said, I usually offer this on my channel. And then I also wanted to talk about the larger conversation as to what's happening right now in terms of the C virus, the C crisis, everything that's happening on the world stage, and how all of this, while it's bringing up a lot of shit, is also highly supportive for what we're stepping into. All of this has to be seen, acknowledged, released, and let go. We have to know about it in order to let it go, right? You can't learn something without knowing what it is that you're letting go so that you can step into something new. So that's a lot of what's happening right now, and I wanted to share that these greater happenings that seem very scary on the world stage are actually supporting us to see what we don't want so that we can create what we do want. A lot of the stuff that's coming up now, we weren't even aware of before. We weren't aware of half the things that were happening or going on. And whether you believe it or not, or align with it or not, some of the things that have come up, we are, I think, aware as a collective and a species now as to where our weaknesses are, right? We're aware of how we would like to do things moving forward. And so all of these events are meant to actually support us and fuel us into a higher calling and purpose, individually and collectively. So that's the larger and most important message I wanted to share today, that I wanted to make sure I brought to you live. And then I have weekly wisdom messages for you, and this is something, like I said, I do on my YouTube channel, but I wanted to do it live today, make it interactive, share with as many people as I could. I encourage you, if you're here, say hello, and drop a comment or an emoji or whatever, or not, but I do encourage you to do that if you care to do so. So I'm going to jump right in to some of the messages that are coming up. So the first one is about change and transformation and how this experience that we're all having right now, and again, I like to focus specifically on weeks when I do these for my channel, and so this is like weekly wisdom, but of course we can look at this, it informs the broader season or cycle that we're all moving through, right? There's a greater chapter that's happening, but there's a transition or change that's happening for each and every single one of us. There's new birth coming through, and at first it can be a little bit more of a disciplined or challenging job to see this growth through. So obviously, in the beginning of, say, growing a garden, you plant your seed, and at first it requires a little bit more discipline. You have to get the soil just right. There's a lot more than that, a lot more than that to gardening, especially in Florida where it's all sand. I don't know all of those details, but what I do know is it requires a lot of work in the beginning to get some new birth going, to ensure that it sustains life, not just comes to be, right, but continues to grow and flourish and blossom. And so there's a new birth happening and a change for each and every one of us. And right now, it requires more effort than it will in the long run. And I share that, and I think that's an optimistic message, because change can be hard, and it feels like we have to do something or be something that we are not, which I talk about in my other videos too on my YouTube channel as well, and probably in previous posts if you follow me, that change doesn't require so much work and effort like we think it does. It doesn't require us to be something that we're not. We're more so just stepping into a greater version of what we already are and releasing old conditioning that we are not. So when I talk about change, or when we hear about change, it's much less about being something, not being something that we are not. It's more about becoming more of who we already are by releasing what we are not. So it's actually an easier process. It's an easier process than we would think at first glance when we're told to change. Most egos, right? Most human beings are like, I am not changing, not for the life of me. And even if we don't think that consciously, we tend to think that subconsciously. And so it plays a role and influence in our lives. And we do get held back, or we hold ourselves back through those thoughts and beliefs that change is hard or impossible or whatever. All of that said, we are going through a major change right now. We are going through a major growth spurt, and it is going to be more difficult now as we get this seedling going and we're supporting it with all this rich, fertile soil so that it can continue to grow and blossom. So be careful with everything that you're creating within yourself. You know, but I don't mean careful as in like watchful or hypervigilant. I mean careful. You know, just being full of care, being mindful, supporting yourself to really get the support and the pillars and the structures and things in place that you need, so that way you can continue to see all of this through. So if you're here, I encourage you to say hello. We've had people coming or going. That's pretty natural on a live, but I love being able to share with each and every one of you if you are here. So please do feel free to say hello. I may not see the comments. I sure hope I do. Let's see if I can see them. Okay. Oh, I did not mean to do that. Hold on. Okay, we're back. So no comments, but I do like to check because sometimes they do not show up. So that's the first message, is being more mindful or careful with what is happening, with the change that's happening within us. And we might want to call on a little bit more discipline or a little bit more support or structure or whatever we might need in our physical, practical lives to ensure we can see these changes through. So I can give you an example. Let me think of a personal one for myself. Let me try to think of what. So over this past couple of months, I've been experiencing a lot of personal change and releasing a lot of old paradigms that I realized I was aligned with or supporting, even if subconsciously, and I've been letting those go. And of course, that requires a lot of self-reflection and time and quiet, or space to myself or stillness. And it's like, okay, well, that's helpful, right? You just have the revelation, but I need to be able to see that through and carry that through into the next embodiment, aka that shit all has to go away and I have to make new choices. I actually have to align my thoughts, words, actions, and choices with that new awareness. That's the part that takes work, that we typically require some support and discipline and structure to see all that stuff through. And for myself, what that has looked like, it's actually been quite natural for me, is sharing a lot on Facebook about my discoveries and revelations, so that way I get support that way, right? As I share, I'm coming into these new knowings of myself. I get to share in this space. People talk about it or confirm it or share about their processes and reflections. That's some support. And then I've also been creating sort of like mantras or affirmations or reminders for myself, that inner dialogue, so that I can coach myself through going from old way to new way. And so those are things that I've done on my own, little tools. And I share that because it's an example, but yours might look different, right? The way that you decide to support yourself might look like more formal support, getting a coach, a teacher, or a mentor, taking on some more like formal education or training. It could look like a women's circle or informal support system, whether it be online. More than likely right now, our support systems are online, but there are many ways to see support through. Sometimes it's self-discipline. It's using a calendar, using timers, using alarms, and a very solid schedule and routine every day. But all of that said, the major point that's being offered here and what's being suggested is creating supports in our lives to be able to guard whatever changes that are coming through for us, and do so with care. Treat it like a newborn baby, like you actually care about this and you want to see this seedling come through to fruition. And that seedling, by the way, is what is your next chapter. Like, it's like, oh, okay, cool, I get to be my new self, exciting. I mean, I love that shit, right? Like, I get off on self-actualization, awesome, right? But a lot of people are like, I don't care about that. In which case, I want to also let you know that that seedling that you're growing, that self-growth, that next embodiment of yours, is what has all the things that you want inside of it. So you want to support this growth. You want to support this ongoing evolution and self-actualization, because it's what houses and contains everything that you're saying that you want right now. And that's how this works. We want something. We are guided on this path of evolution to let all this other stuff go, where other realities and circumstances and conditions are aligned. All that stuff is released, and we make way for what it is that we truly want. But we first have to see through all of the releasing that has to happen in order to get there, you know? And I think people miss that. They miss that not only is there this kind of learning, earning journey of achievement in terms of like climbing a mountain, like actual effort that you have to take. You actually have to do something and take a physical action or make a step, right? Or take a new step outside of your comfort zone. But in addition to that, you have to be willing to let all this other stuff go and have the clarity to know that your desires are coming through the challenges and adversity that you're experiencing. And that actually speaks to the larger topic that I wanted to come on here specifically live for, and that's that there is a higher vision and purpose and blueprint unfolding that is beyond our human awareness. Like, you guys see my posts, you see that sometimes I'm like, I don't love that this is happening, and I don't like that this is happening, look at this that's happening. And that's all speaking to things that we don't want, right? It's saying, hey, take a look at this. This is not the world that we are creating anymore. This is not the new earth that we said that we would create. This isn't the earth we signed up for, right? We're here to create something new. And when we know what it is we're releasing, we're in a better position in terms of our awareness to actually make those changes and see it all the way through to fruition. And so all of that speaking to, we don't always know in our human awareness or minds what's unfolding in the greater blueprint, although I think we all have that inner heart knowing, right? We have that inner wisdom, and we're aware that something is unfolding and there's a higher purpose to it. And so trust that within this adversity, within this challenge, both individually and collectively, that all of the desires that we have for ourselves and as humanity or as a collective are happening and are on the way because of and through this adversity. Like, this is the path, right? The only way out is through. So the only way to our desires, to the achievement or whatever it is that we truly deeply want for ourselves, whether they be superficial desires or deep, deeply held, meaningful desires, that all happens through the adversity / circumstances or conditions of our lives. Sometimes we are gifted with our desires with little effort or challenge, right? And that means we're in full alignment. I don't like using kind of very conceptual and abstract terms, but it does help to have some words and language to use here. And it's like, if we're already there, we're there. It falls into our lap. More often than not, our desires and our values are leading us toward something that's going to make us grow and expand and evolve into something new. So that is going to require sort of like the discipline and support and structure that we've been talking about that helps us support that new birth as it grows. It requires the sloughing off of the old layers and the releasing of the old and the clarity of what it is that we truly want, and carrying that awareness that this is bringing us what we want, that we're getting what we need to get exactly what we want. Is precisely, I feel like, that inner sense of hope and strength and optimism that is gifted. So it's like, if we know that, it's a little bit easier to navigate and pioneer this journey for ourselves and for other people. So that's the first message that's coming through. And if you're not able to stick around live for the whole live stream, obviously that's fine. That's how this works. But you're welcome to catch the whole thing on YouTube later, because I will post it there. So the next part of this message, we've already been talking about a lot of this, because I just let it all flow. But the next part of this message is about going deeper to see the greater purpose and the meaning in a lot of the things that we're facing. So not just at a world stage, but in our individual lives. Because let's get real. Yes, there is a lot of stuff that's happening at the superficial layer. So the arguing and the fighting and the division and the separation, all of that stuff, that is something to be seen, and it is a point of contrast to help inform us as to what we truly want and how we can heal. But more than anything, to me, it's an opportunity to really connect with our own pain and the shared pain that we all have, and step into a greater place of compassion. So it's really teaching us compassion. It's also teaching us at the deeper layer, even the subconscious layers of what keeps us separated and divided. So more than the superficial things that we're seeing on the world stage, if we go a little bit deeper, we can actually look at kind of the deeper paradigms that we've been aligned with or subscribed to that need to be released. So let's see, with great change comes great opportunity. Exactly. So that's a great quote to sum a lot of this up. That's perfect. And so again, with this whole experience, with this healing and evolution and transformation that's happening, we are being offered the opportunity to really look at the paradigms that we've been aligned with, and look at whether those are something we want to continue to carry with us. Whether it's an unworthiness paradigm, whether it's a life has to be hard paradigm, whether it's a sexist paradigm or a racist paradigm, whether it's a materialist, a capitalist or consumerist paradigm, right? So we're having an opportunity now to really look at all the parts of us that we may not have noticed when life was good, because oftentimes we don't face our demons as much when when times are good. We may, and life happens, right? A daily stressor happens, but we don't face our demons as clearly as we do when we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. We get a really good look at our demons in those moments, actually, right? When we're walking in that valley, it's very clear. And so that's where we're at. And we all have the opportunity now, myself and you all included, to be able to look at our own demons and our shared demons. And the irony of it all is that anything that we're saying is in someone else that we don't like in someone else, we have another demon to match, baby. Like, no one is better or worse than the other. And I don't necessarily believe in the one-to-one correspondence of a mirror, that if someone has it, like if you see it, you got it. That is true, but it's not that it's a one-to-one correspondence. Like if they're a narcissist, I'm a narcissist, or if, you know, they're being nasty, I'm being nasty. No, it's more like they have their own subconscious patterns and influences, and so do I, and that makes us equal because we're both walking in the same game. You know, the Great Equalizer is the emotional journey of a human. So, you know, our circumstances may look different. We may grow up in different houses or different families, different conditioning, different set of trials and tribulations and traumas and abuses. But at the end of the day, the emotional journey is very similar in terms of we have highs and we have lows, and we experience anger and we experience depression, and we have to navigate our self-doubts and navigate our uncertainties and discover a sense of self and discover confidence. Like, right? We all go through the hero or the heroine's journey, no matter what walk of life we are. And I think that that is the Great Equalizer. And I know people have spoken to this transition, actually, this catalyst we're experiencing now, as again, the Great Equalizer, or another one, because what does it do? It throws us right into the shadow of death, right? Where we're forced to face our demons and we're eye to eye with them. And at this point, we can either continue to argue with our demons, right? Or argue with each other. And hey, I post things that are very controversial. A lot of people like to argue with me. I give them my time because now that I can and I have the space for it, I won't always do that. I try not to argue, but I'm saying that, hey, I'm well aware of the human journey. I do these things too. But what we're being asked to do is not sit here and engage and have this long conversation and argument with our old demons. We're here to say and see, oh, okay, hey, nice knowing ya. You taught me a lot. It was a good run. But you know what? I'm seeing my way out. On to the next, right? So that's the purpose of facing our demons, is to be able to acknowledge and release them. And so the demons we might see in other people, it's again another opportunity for us to look within ourselves. And I wrote a post the other day, and I encourage you to look for it if it lands for you, but it was something along the lines of, you know, this is an opportunity if we're projecting, like we have all these projections, all of us do, right? Based on our own conditionings, our own paradigms, so on and so forth. And we think our pain is about them, right? They're the bad guy. They're the villain in our life story. This villain's for this cycle, this villain for this season. We make our pain about them. But the healing work, those things might be valid. Those people and those things may have very well victimized you. However, we gain our power back when we pull back our projections, take away all that blame, bring it all right back here, and we own our pain and we sit with it. Now, from that moment, when we sit with our pain, it doesn't mean we just sit with it and wallow in it and pack up our bags and live there. What that means is we have an opportunity now to recognize that this is pain, and to recognize what kind of pain it is, and perhaps where it stems from or where it came from. And at that point, you're in a position to really be with it, to understand it, to sort of befriend it, to get to know it in a certain way where you feel fully comfortable and capable of moving forward. And if that's not good enough, make it your ally, change it into a cause for good, and become an activist of whatever that trauma or pain was, right? And I talk about that too next week. I have a whole collaborative online summit getting ready to happen as of next week, and that's called Raising New Earth, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World. A phenomenal group of people. We're all coming together to support this movement, to support people through this big transition, to create what it is we truly want at the micro and macro scales. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I do a very specific talk that gives you the tools to be able to find meaning and to move forward in times like this, in crises like this, because it's very difficult when you're going through that emotional roller coaster, when you're facing all of your demons, when you're facing all the bad guys out there. It can get very clouded, very confusing, very diluted. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about there. And I encourage you to please follow along. It'll be on our timelines and our feeds. You'll also see it. We also have a group that we're going to have going, so there is a sense of community and support through the whole process. So that's just a side note that's happening starting next week, Raising New Earth, a phenomenal group of people, and we're all sharing our talks and supporting people to be able to move through this transition more effectively and easily. So that was the second message. The final message that I have is about using this opportunity. And again, right, the flow always brings us to right where we need to be, because I've already spoken to some of this, but it's about using this space for deep healing, right? So it's using this space for whatever needs to transpire within yourself, and a lot of it is going to be releasing those old paradigms and releasing those old belief systems, sitting with that pain, because more often than not, we think the pain is anger and we're projecting it at somebody else, when if we sat with that pain, and I feel like this is pretty common awareness, but if it's not, I'm going to share, or at least affirm and remind you, that when we sit with anger, it's oftentimes something else. It's sadness, it's grief, it's loss, it's abandonment, it's rejection. Okay, so we sit with that long enough, and then we find that it's despair, right? And you sit with that, and you sit with that, and then you find that I feel like it's an anguish, and then it's despair, and it's total effing loneliness, right? So you go you sit with it, you sit with it, you sit with it, and it kind of transforms, and you get this new awareness or knowing of what this pain truly is. It's aching you at your core. And the most beautiful part of all of that is that when you get to that deep abandonment / loneliness / whatever that is, which a lot of people call, it's like the void or separation, the wound of separation, you realize that first of all, that's just your humanity talking. You realize that it isn't true. Not that rationality can change or move pain, but it can support the process or facilitate the process of healing. And then also, it gives you an opportunity to point to what it is that you truly want or care for. It then speaks volumes about what does matter to you and what values are most important to you. So if you are sitting with deep anguish, and that anguish is over loss, then that points you right back to human connection, and that tells you exactly what it is that you truly want and want to cultivate and create in your everyday life, so that even if that pain remains, and it may more than likely disappear, dissolve over time, but even if it does remain, that you're living meaningfully and fully anyway, right? Because now you have these human connections, you do have this family, these loved ones, or whatever you've created or cultivated in your life experience to really connect with that value that you have for human connection. So you've used that pain for good, you've alchemized it, you've given it purpose, and you've given it direction, and it's now telling you what you truly care about, so you can create that in your life, and now you have human connection. And so even if you do have pain, you have that too, and oftentimes the pain then dissolves once you are clear on its purpose and the message that it has for you. So that sums up the messages for this week in terms of weekly wisdom. As I shared, I typically share this as a pre-recorded video that I post to my YouTube channel, but this week I decided to make it live. I'd like to see how this goes. I may do it in the future. I'm not really sure. But I wanted to speak to also what's happening at the grander scale, and so I shared some of that in the title, which you can see above when I was talking about seeing the higher purpose in all of this. And then I also wanted to share about the upcoming online summit, which I am doing with a phenomenal group of people, truly the best and the brightest of people that I know, and it's called Raising New Earth, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World. And this series is going to go on all summer. This is just the first round, where we really support people with the inner growth work and personal transformation to move through not only this transition that we have happening, but to then carry on this transformation into the greater parts of their lives, and to really reveal the next chapter that's awaiting them, that does carry and house all of your desires that you have for yourself, your dreams and your destiny, for yourself and for the world. All of this adversity is bringing you right to the root of what you truly, truly want. So with that, I will let you all go. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to sharing in the comments if I see any, and I will see you next time. I may have to flip this. I'm used to doing my lives elsewhere. Oops. There we go. All right. Bye.